experienced mild symptoms in early April, but didn't get tested because of the testing shortage. He says they self-quarantined and worked from home. They later tested positive for coronavirus antibodies.
This is very serious. This is a tricky virus that can easily mask. You might be sick but have no symptoms. You might be sick and have symptoms that don't appear like the normal ones. That's what happened to me. I had symptoms but didn't think it was coronavirus.
Today's roundtable also focused on a recent spike of COVID-19 cases at the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Detention Center in Farmville. City and county leaders met to discuss solutions for that, including ceasing the interstate transfer of people held in ICE detention centers. Bill?
Thank you, Rob. As we mentioned, President Trump's announcement that he has tested positive for the coronavirus and now been hospitalized throws a lot of things into question, particularly so close to Election Day. Our Capitol insider, Joe St. George, takes a look at some of those questions, including how the president's diagnosis could impact the presidential race and, of course, the Biden campaign as well moving forward.
On main streets all across the country tonight, the main topic, President Trump's diagnosis. So much of what will happen next will depend on the president's symptoms. Do they improve? Do they get worse? Well, this is what we know and what we don't know. President Trump will be in quarantine, expected to be in the residence in the White House. The length of this quarantine is unclear. However, 2 weeks is what the CDC recommends. No rallies will take place during quarantine. Those have already been postponed. There are, of course, debate questions. The next presidential debate is set for October 15th. How does this news impact that? And will Joe Biden campaign the same? Biden's campaign has been very cautious throughout this entire pandemic. Does he scale back events? However, he did travel to Michigan today after testing negative, so that perhaps suggests no. And remember, this isn't the first major world leader to contract COVID-19. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson had it earlier this year and fully recovered. Now, in messaging with Republicans around the country tonight, what gives a lot of them pause is that the president will receive the best health care this country can offer. I'm Joe St. George reporting.
And of course, with the election just a few weeks away, this news does leave a lot of voters with a lot of questions, especially those who may have already cast their ballots. Our senior reporter Wayne Colville spoke with voters throughout the Tri-Cities today for their reaction to the president's announcement.
With 32 days left before the presidential election, voters learning Friday morning President Trump has COVID-19.
You hear about all these stories about the people with coronavirus, the elderly, the people with pre-existing conditions are the ones that are most at risk. So it's definitely concerning for anybody, and definitely for the president.
I don't know, because I have some suspicions as to whether or not he really has it, or whether this might be a game playing strategy.
The positive test leaving voters on both sides of the aisle pondering what, if any, effect it could have on the campaign come Election Day.
I think his supporters have already made up their minds, and people who don't like him have their minds made up. I think most people's decisions to this point have already been decided.
I think a lot of people have their mind made up because of what have been going on in the past.
I don't think it's going to affect the campaign at all.
I think most people have already made up their minds because we're going through it for the last 4 years. It doesn't add up to the last 30 days or last 60 days.
And with President Trump and Governor Northam testing positive, will that be enough to change some people's opinion about the virus?
Absolutely. It's a serious thing.
It's still, everybody's still getting it and it's still going on. I'm concerned.
Now people will take a second look at what they're going to follow.
I don't think people's opinions are changed. People kind of stick with their opinion regardless of outcomes.
Everyone I spoke with say they believe President Trump will recover from the coronavirus, and most agree that he will not remain silent while quarantined.